Hey, thank you for being a part of the Leading Leaders podcast, especially here with our 2020 Servant Leader series. I'm your host, Loren Norris, and today I am in the studio with Tammy from Leigh Hilton, PLLC. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about Leigh Hilton. Her organization is specifically focused on helping people who weren't prepared or who want to be better prepared for that moment that nobody wants to prepare for, and that is leaving this earth. In that transition, there are a whole lot of things that happen. It's like setting off fireworks, and all of life begins to change financially, legally, relationally. And as that happens, the worst thing is to leave your family wondering what's going to blow up next. So Leigh Hilton's firm is filled with people who have different personality traits, different levels of experience, different levels of expertise, and they bring different things to the table to say, this is the experience that I have as well as my training, to be able to help you navigate through this time and make sure that life doesn't blow up in your face. So please help me welcome Tammy Stark. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So how did you land at Leigh Hilton PLLC?
I started out working part-time as a clerk with the law firm we were at before. And when her legal assistant left to go back to school, they offered me the position. So I was there for about 5 months, and they offered me the position of her legal assistant.
And so what brought you to the area of law? Do you have a degree in law? Is that your background?
I do not. Okay. I lost my husband to cancer when he was 43.
Wow.
So I knew I had to go back to school so that I could support myself. I was a lunch lady in a high school cafeteria with 2 teenagers at home. And so I had to go back to school. And so probably about halfway through, it was time for me to go back to work, and I wanted to get back into an office setting. And so it wasn't really the fact it was law, it was just the fact it was getting my foot in the door for an office setting.
Sounds like a name for a good book, Lunch Lady to Law Clerk.
Mm-hmm. It does, doesn't it?
My mother was the janitor in my middle school.
Yes.
And then she went back to school, graduated from Mary Hardin Baylor the same month she turned 50.
Right.
Spent the rest of her years until retirement teaching the Challenger high school students that had been kicked out for discipline issues.
Yes, that's good. Yes. I went back and got my business administration degree from Texas Women's University. Graduated December 2010.
Wow. And so how long have you been with Leigh Hilton?
May will be 12 years.
12 years. Wow. So you've learned a lot about her and her business practices.
I have. She's a wonderful lady. I've learned a lot from her. She's a very patient person.
And from everything that I've heard so far, I don't think there's been anybody that I've interviewed from the team so far who hasn't said, everything we do with our clients is a pleasure. Every client that we deal with is working in the same direction with us. Mm-hmm. There's constant synergy. There's no combativeness. And even in such a trying and a hurtful time, most of them are blessed to be a part of the organization as clients and feel that.
Right. Yes.
What attributes to that?
I think if you have a good attitude about what you're doing and you like what you do, it'll make it easy. Because I enjoy meeting with the people. I truly do. I've learned a lot. I tell them I'm not perfect, but it makes them comfortable. And so I like to put them at ease. It makes me feel good when they decide to do it. And when they tell me that they've got a lot of their questions answered and they can rest easy now, it means a lot. And we all take great pride in what we do.
So you're a peacemaker.
Yes, I'm a people pleaser.
Okay. Have you ever done Strengths Finders?
No, I don't think so.
You should try that sometime. It'd be fascinating just to see where you land on it. Some people say over a long period of time, especially with major events in life like the loss of a loved one or something, that they'll change. But generally speaking, it's an assessment that points to the true character of a person. Mm-hmm. And you find that those who are learners, they're always learning. And those who are compassionate, they're always compassionate. And if you look deep enough in everything they do, you're like, oh, well, I can see her making that decision because that's just her character.
Right.
So the first time you sat down with a client, now you do, from what I understand, you do the kind of the assessment, onboarding, interview, kind of get them set up, figure out what their needs are, and then assign them to the right person. Is that right?
I do, yes.
So the first time you did that, were you terrified, or did you feel like this is what I'm made for?
I felt like it was what I was made for because I was used to dealing with the clients anyway. So in one form or another. So when I first started actually doing those consultations, I felt very comfortable and very at home.
So what was the hardest part or the hardest thing to learn coming on board here 12 years ago?
It's kind of hard to say. I've always been kind of a loner. I worked with a bunch of women. And so then when Leigh and I went out on her own, it was just the two of us. So you really had to do a lot of thinking, a lot of planning. And then as people came in, it was just making sure we had the right fit.
Right.
That was very important.
Building the team is hard.
It's very hard. It's very hard. We have a great team and we all work well together, but it works out.
So do you have any alphas in the team?
We may have one or two, but not many.
Which is unusual when you think about a house of lawyers.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. But, it's pretty much everybody, they respect Leigh and what she has to say. So if they have a question, they go to her. And then they'll talk it over and figure out the best way to fix it. And if I have a question, like, why are you doing it this way? Then they're going to explain to me why. Because it helps me explain it to the next client who walks in the door who may have a similar issue.
So what are some of the train wrecks that you've seen averted? Some of the things that you're like, oh, that could be so bad if it comes down like that, and we need to find a way to fix it.
Maybe, it's hard to say. Probably little things like how things are put together. If somebody didn't care enough about how the work was drafted, then if I can, because my job used to be was looking over all of the documents too, just kind of giving a second glance. And if I saw something that didn't make sense, then she's like, thank you for catching that. So it's things like that. So it can get caught before it goes any further.
And how about on the part of your clients that come in the door? Have you had any of those initial consultations? You're like, I don't think we can fix this.
Yes, I have had a few of those. And I'm the kind that it's difficult for me to say, I don't think we can help you. It is difficult for me to say that because I feel like we could, but if I know we can't, it's like, I'm sorry, there's just nothing we can do. And it can be difficult telling them that and them accepting it, but trying to articulate why we can't do it. It's not that we don't want to, it's something beyond our realm.
And have you ever had those clients that are like, oh, we'll pay you whatever it takes, but you're like, it's still not going to work. I mean, we could take your money, but we can't do anything to undo.
Exactly. Yes, we have had those. And so they once we figure it out and try and talk through some other options, we may have to refer them out. But when they realize that this just isn't what we do, we aren't set up for this. So then they're pretty good. But they appreciate the help, they appreciate the time that you take to spend with them to explain it.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference.
There are a lot of, and I think it was Hunter that I was talking to about this, there are a lot of people that see attorneys in that sales pitch mode. Mm-hmm. And the fact that most of what you do here is based on a flat fee.
Yes.
You've already decided what the scope of service is. You know what needs to be done. Generally speaking, how long that's going to take, what it's going to entail from a documentation and an hours and a legal proceedings aspect. You can pretty much set that up front and go, I know what it's going to cost to do this, and I know what it's going to cost to do that. And you may need both, or you may need one or the other, or we understand what you're asking for, but what you need is entirely different from that, so here's what we recommend.
Right.
That's an entirely different thing than a sales pitch process that says, let's get you in the door, let's get you on retainer, and then we'll charge you for every paperclip, staple, and phone call.
Exactly.
Until we feel like we've gotten enough money out of you or we've gotten everything you're willing to give up.
Yes.
So that process, I believe, would be part of the culture, if you will, that he attributes to that synergy of everybody flowing in the same direction. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I always tell people, Leigh and I figured Leigh out, we talked a long time ago. She wants to help people. She's not in it for the money. If she can't help you, or if she doesn't think you need it, she's going to tell you. And there's been times that she'll come and talk to me and she say they really want this, but they don't need it. They don't have the money for it. I feel bad. So, and I'll tell people that. I said, I don't think you need this. I said, we can get you with one of the attorneys, but they'll probably say the same thing. I said, this will work just as well. So they appreciate the honesty, and they appreciate the fact that if we were doing a hard sell, then I'd do my best to push the top thing on them every time.
Right.
But if
the most expensive service.
Exactly. But
right.
If it's not needed or not wanted, then I'm not going to go there.
Right.
So we mention it, but if it, as upon further conversation, if it's not needed, then we just, okay, that's fine. I make a note, we talked about it, and it's not needed.
So the word I hear there is integrity.
Yes.
A culture of integrity. And it's pretty fascinating too, because when you look all the way across the board, one of the fascinating documentaries I've enjoyed watching is called Dirty Money. And in every one of the scenarios, whether it's a bank or it's a corporation or it's an industry even, when you find the ultimate head of that, you find that their perspective, pharmaceuticals, bank leaders, CEOs, CFOs, all the way to the top,
Right.
that their perspective on life becomes the culture of the organization. And if that intent is driven by money rather than well-being or well-doing, then that's what you see throughout the entire organization. And it permeates the industry, it permeates the culture, it permeates the environment. And eventually, employees either realize they fit in that culture or they don't.
Right.
So in the time that you've been with Leigh, have you seen people who really felt like they should be a part of the team, but you realized not such a good fit? The integrity, the character, just not there.
Yes, yes. And that's what I like about the fact we've been together so long. I can talk to her about anything. And if I feel like there's a problem, she will listen to me. And then she'll make her own decision. But she's a typical mom, I could say. Because with your kids, there's two sides to every story. There's your kid's side, and then there's the teacher's side, kind of thing. So she's going to look at the options, and she'll make a decision. But yeah, it's pretty much if I sit there and she respects my decision, my opinion, I should say. So yes, if I tell her there's something going on here I think you should know about, then she's going to start working on it. So
my mother was widowed, I guess, in her late 30s, early 40s, never remarried. I watched her walk through that journey, and usually I was raised by a single mom, the only son of a single mom, then I married a single mom, and usually I can pick them out from across the room. Because there's just something about the kind of woman that says, been there, done that, I'm moving on.
Right.
I don't need to start over. I'm not asking you've been remarried or not. If you want to tell her, that's fine. But how did that journey so early in your life, that major devastating emotional and financial change in your life, how did that influence or impact what you've done here?
It made me stronger. It made me realize there's people out there who don't mind helping. And I just want to give back.
Okay.
When my husband died, he was 43. It was just shy of our 22nd anniversary.
Wow.
I had a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old at home. And it made me realize I needed to stand on my own 2 feet. I already was, but it made me stand up a little bit taller and realize I can do this. So yes, it took me 4.5 years to get that degree. My kids were a wonderful source of support. Leigh was excellent. She gave me whatever time I needed. And then I did remarry. April will be 4 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So it took a while, but I had to find somebody who was willing to put up with that strong person I became to realize that I'm independent and I can do this. And it's like I'm capable of making decisions at work. And it's more along the lines, I'll make the decision, but to make people happy, I will confirm this with the attorney, and the attorney always backs me up. But it's
so
just
you become very astute in what those expectations and procedures and processes look like.
Yes, yes, yes. And this made me more confident in myself. And that was huge.
And everybody I've talked to so far on the team, it's like Leigh has done a great job hunting for the people that she's brought on. I mean, talking to Cassidy and the area that she focuses in, dealing with families who have special needs kids. It was her upbringing, her life, everything about her.
Yes.
It revolves around that reality. Hunter and his poli-sci and business background and litigation and family law, and now he fights in that place to say, let me protect your business.
Right.
From all these things that could go wrong that you probably don't even know those warning signs are there.
Right.
And then even the same with Caitlin. She said, I had to bury my dad at 18. And so knowing what it's like to sit there in the courtroom and figure out what's yours and what's not, and what do you have a right to, and what should you have protected before, those are all powerful aspects of being able to do your job well.
Yes.
So your experience with your husband, did a lot of that bring to bear the insights and the acumen and the compassion for people who are facing the same challenge or the same potentialities?
Yes, it does. If I'm meeting with somebody who lost a spouse, occasionally I'll have somebody that I'll say, I know what you've been through. She said, oh, no, you don't. I said, yes, I do. I've lost my husband too, so I know exactly what you're going through. I know what you're feeling, and I know how difficult it is. So, yes, that has made a huge impact, because then when you're coming in and you're planning for your estate planning, then it's like, okay, my husband died and we didn't have anything in place. My situation was different, so it was easy to take care of, but not everybody is that fortunate to have it. Right. If I could look back, yes, I wish we did, but nobody pushed it on us to get anything done. So it took several years, and my daughter asked me, she said, Mom, when Dad died, did he have a will? And I said, no. She said, okay, well, do you? And I said, no. She said, where do you work again? And so, yes, I now have one. But, and so it's just, I think it brings a lot to it, because I can relate better and I can explain it. I tell Leigh it's kind of like, the books, for dummies, Microsoft for Dummies. I'm the Law for Dummy version. I need to be able to understand. I got to be able to talk to them and it be where they can understand it.
Well, most people hear the word lawyer and their defenses go up.
It's
worse than a salesman.
They do. So, but this way, if you can explain it where they can understand it, I've lived through part of it, so I know what it's like. I had Leigh do my mother's estate planning because I knew she could do it right, because I saw some of what my mom had. I said, no, you're going to come here. I know it's going to be done right. So it's...
And part of that probably, it sounds like to me, just from the conversations we've had so far, that your experience and your attitude kind of says, look, let me show you the 7 mistakes that I made.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so you don't have to. Yeah,
exactly.
And I think that's the difference between a teacher and a mentor. A teacher kind of lines out all the things they think you should know, and you either get it or you don't.
Right.
A mentor says, I stepped on that mine. Take 3 steps to the left, and you won't have to step on that landmine. You don't have to fall off of that cliff. I already did it for you.
Right.
I put up some red tape. Just turn when you see the red tape.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So who's your ideal client to bring in here? And I'm just presuming that you're kind of an evangelist now for the idea of having a will, for having a professional handle it, for coming to a professional firm to say, these are people that I trust. I don't do this work, but I know all the people who do it and do it right. So do you find yourself sitting at coffee or at dinner going, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard those words that mean so much, and I'm thinking we might be able to help you?
I have occasionally. I'm not one to just pop in on conversations, but I think ideally it should be young families, because there's not a lot of them out there that think of the consequences with their kids.
Right.
It was brought up to my late husband and I when our kids were little, but I know the mentality, we don't think we're going to outlive our kids.
Invincible.
We are. So as young parents, nothing's going to happen to us, nothing's going to happen to our kids, but we're seeing it more and more.
Right.
So I think if we could, we need to get, the families in there so that they know. I mean, my husband's been trying to get his son and his family taken care of, but it's like they just don't want to admit the fact that it could happen.
Well, and as we record this interview, we're less than 90 days into the COVID-19 global pandemic.
Right.
A national state of emergency has already been declared. County emergencies have already been declared. There are some states, the entire state is already on lockdown. And for people who are going into that fear of loss of life, fear of loss of money, fear of loss of possessions, fear of martial law, et cetera, there are a lot of preparations that could have been done 6 months ago that would have financially protected them. That right now it's too late. And then there are some that you're looking at it going, okay, when we pass this, understand that it could happen again.
Right.
And you now have a new opportunity to be prepared yet again for what you couldn't be prepared for then.
Right. I mean, I've had very few come up lately and say that's what a concern is. Very few. But I'm getting more. But it's more along the lines, they always start the conversation of, well, we've been talking about this for such a long time, and now it's time to do something about it.
Right, time to take action.
It's time to take action. And it's not just because of the virus. I get people in who just got cancer diagnosis, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute.
I am human.
It is, yes. And it's like, I need to have this in place. And I'll tell them, you do, because she's not going to get your medical records without these papers. I've been there. I had to jump through hoops to get stuff. So the virus has a lot to do with it, but not really.
It does create a sense of urgency or awareness, at least.
It does. But then you also, like I said, you get those with the cancer diagnosis, and they think, okay,
or the
that's
car
it.
accident.
Car accident, exactly. So, yeah, we do get a few of those in there right now, and I expect we'll probably get more. And it's just trying to help maintain calm and rationality so we can discuss it all without going into panic mode.
But it's really about being a servant.
Yes.
It's about helping people who are in crisis even when they don't recognize it as a crisis.
Right, right.
They don't see the storm coming, but it's only because the whistles haven't gone off yet.
Exactly, exactly.
So if you were able to speak to that mom who's 35 years old, she's got 3 toddlers running around the house, and she's thinking, right now we're bulletproof, we're invincible, and life is chugging along, and I don't see a need for a will. I'm too young, my husband's too young, we just got it started. What would you say to her if you could step into her life and say, here's what I know about what could happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
It would be along the lines, let's make sure you got beneficiaries set up, but don't put your kids. And people don't realize the fact why you can't put your kids, because we want to keep the courts out. We want to make sure that, I always tell people it's easier to die with a will than without, because it'll make things so much easier, so much smoother, so much cleaner. If you want to go to the advance and do the trust, we can discuss it. But at least have something in place so that your kids are taken care of in the off chance. Now, we're hoping nothing happens for 15, 20, 30 years, but we need to be prepared. We're going to plan for what happens to be left when you're gone. Hopefully you'll spend it all. But it's just more along the lines, just give some thought as to making sure your family's taken care of. I'm not here to make you feel bad if you don't do anything. That's not my job.
Just to make you feel better when you choose to.
Yes, yes, and I do. I occasionally get the email notes that says, thank you so much for your time and your help. My mother's feeling so much better. That's why I do this job.
Very good. And you're glad to do it alongside with Leigh.
I am.
Tammy, I thank you so much for your time. It's
Thank
been an
you so
honor to be here.
much.
I want to thank you again for watching the Servant Leaders series for 2020 from the Leading Leaders podcast. Please feel free to share this. And if you are in need of help with wills, probate, trust, anything of that nature, preparing for what happens when you're not here anymore, for who gets your stuff when you die, I want you to visit leahilton.net and check out the services that they offer. Make an appointment, bring a cup of coffee, and sit down with Tammy for a few minutes and let her get a better assessment of how they may be able to help you and serve you along the way. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. Have a blessed day.